Greetings, everyone. Welcome to Artcasters episode 312. And we have a returning guest, and we're making good on a promise that we wouldn't wait till Halloween to have David Hartman back. So we'll get to David in a minute. We got a really cool show. David is going to share with us some of the tricks and techniques and things he uses to create his comics on the iPad, which I'm really interested in. And see, maybe can convert us all to creating our comics on the iPad. So, but before we get to that, we'll do what we always do, and we'll go around the room and introduce ourselves and anything we want to promote. So you are on my channel, so you know where to find me on YouTube, which you may not know, or maybe you know. But if you do a little digging on this channel, you will also find Making Comics 101 is a series I did. And it is basically everything you want to know about creating comics, everything from coming up with the idea all the way to printing, publishing, and all the steps in between. It's a full series. It's pretty much the most comprehensive course for free anyway, for making comics on YouTube or most places that I don't know many other places that have free course like that. But it's right here. The only other thing I think I can promote, if you have kids and you want to teach them how to make comics, because YouTube isn't always the best place to set your kids up and have them roam around here. But if you want a safe place for kids, DIY.org. I've got my creating comics course for kids on DIY.org. So definitely go there. I think if you go to the video that I put on it, I think it's the last video I put out. There is a link in the description of that video that'll give you 50% off a membership, and there's tons of other cool stuff on there as well. And just like everything from how to solve Rubik's Cube, baking, Minecraft, Roblox, all this cool stuff, how to do all that stuff, how to become a YouTuber, how to become a podcaster. I mean, all these different things. It's just a great platform for kids. So if you have kids, definitely check that out and go to my video on creating comics for kids on this channel. I think it's the last video I did, and there's a link you can sign up for 50% off of that. So definitely check that out. And so I'm going to go around clockwise the way I'm looking at stuff, and we're going to go over to Josh. Hey, Josh, what's going on?
Hey, how's it going? So I have 2 books, and assuming we don't end up in like a crazy world war in the next few months, you should be able to pick this up by June. So this is Jacob's Apartment. This is a comic about how some questions can shake even the strongest of faith. And it's basically about these college roommates, Jacob and Sarah, who seem like polar opposites. Jacob's a Christian, Sarah's an atheist. Sarah's a drinker, and Jacob's a teetotaler. And they find commonality due to their shared dream to create art. And it ends up being a coming-of-age graphic novel in the vein of Ghost World, Fun Home, and it weaves together threads of spiritual faith, identity, purpose, love, and loss to create an engrossing world in which waking and sleeping dreams collide. So that should be out this June, but pre-order it.
That was really eloquent. You should put that on the back of your book.
I know.
I'm reading the back of my book.
I feel guilty. I just draw monsters and crap. That is deep.
Yeah, and then 2 Stories, which is my comic about faith and mental illness, is out today, so you can purchase that at a reduced rate. I'd recommend getting that on Amazon. And then Jacob's Apartment, you can ask your local comic shop or any bookstore, your local Barnes & Noble or whatever, to ask them to order it and carry it. So yeah, that's my stuffs, my spiel, but I do need to memorize that pitch so I can say it better than the back of the book.
Luckily, this is recorded,
all right,
so you can just use it.
Oh, yeah. All right, Corey, what do you got? I mean, you got something different every time I see you. You're animating a new scene every time I see you. So what's going on over there?
I'm trying to do 2 or 3 scenes a day. So,
wow.
Yeah.
You guys are just making me. Josh has got 4 books. You've got this huge animation project. David's going to talk about the 3 graphic novels that he's working on. I feel like, and I'm still working on the 5th issue of my comic. So, oh man. All right.
Oh,
sorry, Corey, go ahead.
I've got something I probably shouldn't say yet, but I got to tell you guys off air. Who contacted me today. But yeah, I think I did mention. But anyway, yeah, if you wanna take a look at my stuff, you can go to CoreyKerr.com. If you go to CoreyKerr.com/online, that's like some of the newer stuff. There's some things you can watch. I've been invited to live stream on Behance, so I'm trying to get like more involved in Behance. So if you're interested in checking that out, you can go to that website, and there's a link to Behance as well. So yeah, I've still got t-shirts for sale. We've got a few people in the chat that have bought them, so that's cool.
Awesome t-shirt. I've got one.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, your volume's a little lower than everyone else. It's not bad, but I don't know if you could bump it maybe a little bit.
Yeah, let me try.
If not, it's like I said, it's not bad.
Okay, I don't know if I can. I got to move.
Don't worry about it. All right, so let's move over to David from SideshowMonkey.com.
Yes.
Hey, David. Well, you're going to talk about a few of the things you got coming out, or what you can mention, but tell everyone else what else you do and give a little bit of your pedigree. We don't have all day because you've got a huge pedigree, but
yeah. Well, the highlights are I direct mainly television animation. Got a few shows coming out, hopefully this year. Two that were announced was Art, based off the video game. That one I'm directing and producing on, and then another one for Zack Snyder, based off Army of the Dead. I got those two things, so I mainly do that. This year, I should have 2 board games coming out that I did all the art for through Trick or Treat Studios.
Oh, so awesome.
Blood Orders. It's all vampires. It's all my art. I did over 200 illustrations, full color for it. And then I have another one called Troll Fest. That's really fun. It's like a kind of D&D world, but you're putting together a band, so you get orcs and dwarves playing drums and stuff. It's actually really fun and a lot different for my art style. So I had a lot of fun with that. That's also like 200 illustrations. So both of those should be out this year, if not already.
Awesome.
And got 2 other TV shows I'm working on, storyboards for a feature film, and I don't know, always a lot of little stuff.
Yeah, and keep in mind, as he's going to mention, he's also got comic projects that he's working on. So.
Right. Yeah, it's always too many projects, but
All right,
you do what you love.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So, like I mentioned, we usually have. It's been a tradition. We've had David on every Halloween because, as you can tell, it's Halloween every day where he's at. So, but we didn't want to wait another year to have David back on. So I reached out to David, and usually we give our guests the chance to pick a topic, and he picked a really cool one that I'm really interested in diving into because something that I have attempted to do, and then I just decided. I don't know. I don't want to learn Procreate. I think I'm just going to continue doing things the way I am. But so David, you brought up the topic of creating comics on the iPad.
Yeah, and it came out of I don't want to say laziness because I don't want to say I'm lazy, but I always try to look for the easiest way out, which for me was how can I draw a comic and not get off the couch, right? Because I'm always, when I was doing comics and pen and ink, I'm hunched over so much, and it was a lot of work, and I'm always had to be in the mood to go sit at my drawing desk. And once the iPad came out, I jumped on, right away, got the first iPad Pro that came out, and got onto the Procreate app really early on. And I was trying to get a lot of fellow artists on it just out of the ease of use, and in doing so, for me, I've come up with my own process to knock out comics for me fast, because otherwise they don't get done. If I have to do them pen and ink, Josh is awesome, but man, I can't do that and get it done with all the other stuff. But I have a million stories I want to tell. So the iPad has actually brought my personal productivity up,
That's awesome.
fivefold, right? Now, the drawback is, unlike you, Josh, I don't have a tangible, real piece of art that I can hold in front of me or sell separately. Everything's digital. It's on a USB drive, right?
Yeah.
So that's always kind of a drawback. So I still draw traditionally, but for comics, I was approached. Well, let me go back. So, like, I did these comics, like 10 years ago, right? For Image. I got some here called Steve Niles' Strange Cases. And it was just kind of a fun book. Let me flip through some pages. So it was colored digitally, but I drew it traditionally, or at least what I consider traditional, which was, again, trying to stay as much on the couch as possible. Crappy Xerox paper I bought, like 11 by 17, the really crappy Xerox paper. I would do my 10 by 15 border inside, and then I would just pencil and ink with microns, right? And then I would scan it all, but I didn't have a big enough scanner, so you got to scan the top half and then scan the bottom half.
Yep.
Yeah.
Match them up, clean it up. Then I would.
I think Photoshop has a feature now that kind of does. I thought I heard
it does it for you, kind of lines it up.
It'll splice them for you.
It supposedly does the auto stitching, but it's kind of like the auto mask features, where in reality you usually end up having to do it anyway.
Yourself anyhow.
Yeah.
I've got. It's funny because not to interject too much, but I bought this massive printer. And it was a printer scanner, but it was 11 by 17 bed and everything. Well, the printer has since stopped working, but this thing is just huge.
But the scanner,
so I've got it like under this desk. The only time I ever use it is to scan something, and I have to kind of crawl under this desk because it's like hidden. Because the way I've got this L-shaped desk, and in the corner it's just empty space. So I've got it tucked away in there. So I have to crawl inside this little cabinet anytime I want to scan something. and then it ran out of ink, and this stupid thing, all I want to do is scan. I'm not trying to print anything.
And
I had to buy it won't scan unless it has ink cartridges. So I had to buy new ink cartridges.
Are you kidding?
Yeah, but luckily I could find them like super cheap online because they're off brand or whatever. So I could buy a pack of all the inks for like $10.
So
but still, it's
so
just
funny.
Yeah.
That's like the loss leader in proof of concept, the way they get you with printers, where they're like, okay, this will be super cheap and you have to buy cartridges just to scan something. Sorry, I mentioned that. I actually recommended that because somebody on a stream recently was asking me like about scanners because they're going to like Kinko's or something to scan stuff, and I was like, no, you should like own a scanner. You can get them for real cheap. And that's one of the
11 by 17 still isn't. I haven't seen 11 by 17 very cheap lately.
One of the tricks
everything I see was still pretty expensive.
You can do the 13 by 19, like the giant ones, but what you want to look for are like those all-in-one printers, because like that's usually the cheapest like large format scanners you're going to find. Especially if you find an out-of-date one that's like refurbed or something.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, David.
No, it's all right. So now I was talking to Steve Niles again and my buddy Shannon Eric Denton, and they approached me like, hey, if you could draw this, what would you do? I did some designs, and next thing you know, we're doing like, hey, let's do this book, for Image. I haven't done a book in a while. I love doing comics. It's actually probably my earliest passion, but it takes a lot of time and there's little payback, right? As far as a job, considering how many hours you put into it, right? Unless you're one of the big names at the big two or whatever. But anyhow, the passion is there. So once they approached me with this, I was like, I could probably do this completely on the iPad and never get out of bed. So I will say that the book was made probably about 95% in my bed. So, because I would get up at like 6 a.m. because my, I have to go direct, and storyboard and stuff. And, that's my full-time job. So I would try to get like 2 hours in every morning, 2 to 3 hours, right? So
that sounds like the most uncomfortable thing, because I know just sitting in bed watching, like I'm watching on my iPad or something, I'm like, I got to move around because like my arms get tired. And
see, I love it.
I don't know. I'm curious to see. I'm curious to how you actually.
I just
Okay.
imagine those
You need more
guys at the
pillows,
beginning of Wall-E. Remember those guys, like they're just sitting back and they're all fat and
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
fruit and vegetables.
Yeah.
Like, I was watching The Matrix and the whole time it's like, Neo, why do you want to wake up, man? Go hang out with Lawrence Fishburne. Do whatever you want. So, yeah, I freaking loved it. But,
See, now I have this visual picture of your art studio, and I'm imagining you have one of those like mobile chairs that just it's like an easy chair that just kind of moves around your house.
you are not far off, Josh. So I got like over here on this side, I got just a big leather chair, right? That's
nice.
My other work area. I got just a little desk. I realized I don't need a desk. A desk, all it does for me is hold stuff so I don't put it away. So even at the animation studio, I was like, don't give me a desk, just give me a leather chair. So
that's awesome.
I usually just have a big leather chair now. But put a Cintiq on a swinging arm, which is pretty awesome. But for this comic, I was doing these board games and I was able to get my speed up pretty quick on that. So I figured, I could do it in this, right? So what I did was I'd use Procreate, and then I would use a couple other apps to help with borders, lettering, stuff like that.
Hey, David, real quick, since we brought up Procreate, Jim Lujan, do you know Jim Lujan? He's an animator as well, but he said he was going to pop on because he had some questions. So here's one that he had. How do you deal with the image cutoff that Procreate has? For example, if your image is bigger than the frame, will it cut it?
That's something where, Scott, like if you bring in an image and you're resizing, the second you let go of the marching ants, right, the marquee, the frame actually cuts. It actually always crops your image so that it's not wasting too much file space outside, which is the opposite of Photoshop, right? Everything is non-destructive.
Yeah, so Photoshop, I've got all this stuff up the sides is taking up all the space that I didn't even need.
But for me, I just don't work that way. And now it does have a reference window. If you're using it just strictly for reference, there's a window you can hit, it pops up, you can load separate images into that image on your screen. But yeah, it's still going to cut stuff off, but actually I use it as a tool now. So if I have things where I want to crop, instead of just doing the marquee, I just drag it to the edge and let the edge cut it, just treat it like a big knife the whole time.
I would have to get used to that.
As you're drawing. But so that's a problem. And there's also like a layer limit, right? Like how many layers you can have. But again, it all comes down to what can I do quickly? What can I get my speed up to make finishing a comic, right?
Yeah.
Because that's a chore. And I know me. I'm working on a million projects and I get passionate about stuff, but that only lasts until I'm passionate for the next thing. So it's like, in my mind, it's like, okay, you got to finish this thing now or you're never going to get it done. Right. And, I did one comic, my right comic, Scott, I sent you, like the first one was like, it started in 95, right? Like, and it took me several years and I'm doing it traditional quill pen and I just never finished the book. once I got the iPad, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna finish it. And I finished like the last 30 or 40 pages in a few weeks.
Oh, wow.
And again, it works with my style of drawing. I'm pretty loose and sloppy and stuff. If you're a traditional inker, maybe it's not for you, but it works for me. So, but I figured I could share some stuff when we get to it here.
Yeah, and I've seen people of all styles use Procreate. I mean, it's just whatever you want to do. They probably aren't as probably aren't as prolific as you, because you have a looser style. But yeah, you can definitely do that in Procreate too as well.
Yeah, and I mean, not that I'm not a salesman for Procreate or sponsored in any way, although they did showcase some of my art at the beginning, which was nice, but I was never paid for that. But but the art, it's just a simple interface, which is all I need. Which is a pencil. I just need to be able to control opacity and brush size with 2 tools on the side. Color pick, I can just do with my finger. I don't need a knife tool. I don't need cloning tools, even though it has that. You can go up and get those, but they're not taking up screen,
real estate. Yeah, and that's one of my biggest reasons why I haven't. Because I've got the iPad Pro, I've got Procreate, and that night I don't know. I have to play around with the brush settings because I just can't get the brushes to act the way they do.
Don't be afraid to don't feel like it's all got to be one or the other either. Right. For the longest time, Procreate couldn't do type. Right. Yeah. It could do all this stuff, but I was still using Photoshop. I just liked how the pencil felt. I could control the brushes a little bit more, so I made my own brushes that work. Because I'm pretty heavy-handed on some things, but light-handed on other things, and so I was able to accommodate for that. But I would then bring it into Photoshop, and there were certain effects that they did better, right? Yeah, that I liked that I would do in my art, and and with texturing and things, like there was still more of a painterly feel in Photoshop. So, and even with these comics, which I'll show, I'm using like 2 or 3 different apps to get to the final, but the bulk of the art is done in Procreate, just because to me it's a powerhouse, and I just love, again, being able, like I would take this thing with me, like in the car, it's like, oh, I got to pick up my kid from school. Well, while I'm sitting there waiting, I could knock out a couple panels. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Sitting there listening to the radio, or watching a movie on my phone or playing a game, take advantage of those little moments.
Yeah. That's awesome.
I love that, but just like how you were talking about, you like to sit in a big chair, you like to sit in the bed. Right. Everyone's got their own way of working. Yeah, exactly. My thing that I like to have the big Cintiq. I like to have all that room to move things around, and it's just moving from that to a little thing the size of a sheet of 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper almost. It's difficult because plus not just the art space, but you've got all the it's a different interface. It's that I'm not used to.
It totally is, and it's a different state of mind. And I actually blame it on having children, or a child in my case. Yeah. But, in that I used to be the night owl, right? I would be up all night. I looked forward to just going to my drawing desk and hunching over and drawing. And that, when I was in that stage, it meant I was working, right? And that was my space. And when I put my pencil down, I've left the table, I'm done working. But then as once I had a kid and you're up so early, yeah, you can and they have to go to school. You're just now, I'm pushed into this different lifestyle. Yeah. And the iPad for me worked really well in that. So I probably forced myself into it, but now it's just, it's like anything. There's a learning curve, but then once you got it, it might actually be saving you time. right?
Yeah,
But you have to accommodate for that learning curve. You can't do that in the middle of a job, right? You
exactly.
Yeah.
Or
I'm-
a comic, really.
So I have a question regarding that. Like on the iPad, do they have a decent version of Photoshop now on there, or is it just like
That's Corey.
Yeah.
Well, they sort of do, because I use Photoshop and Fresco on the iPad.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah, Fresco.
And I love Fresco. Like I'm not a painter, and so when I tried Procreate at the start, it felt like it was meant for like somebody who understood painting, and I didn't like it. I liked the brush engine when it came to the pencil and the inks.
Yeah.
That was really nice. But then like everything else was like I was supposed to guess where
Right.
gestures, you know what I mean?
No,
But
totally get that.
But somebody in the chat, and I think I missed it, was mentioning Scott, what's the one that I showed you years ago? Sketchbook Pro. I used Sketchbook Pro for a while.
I did
Yeah.
too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I like that.
I still
And
do
then-
that. That's if I'm drawing on my iPad, that's what I use.
It's
Yeah,
still
I would,
one of the best
Scott, I
digital
would
pencils.
recommend you try Fresco.
Yeah, exactly.
And Josh, the reason is if you've got a Creative Cloud subscription and you create something in Fresco, you can switch back and forth between Fresco on the iPad
Yeah.
and then Photoshop on the iPad and Photoshop on the desktop, because they're all accessing the same cloud library, and
Yeah.
it's all PSDC, which is a Photoshop document cloud.
Hmm.
And Fresco
And now with
is,
Sidecar, I
yeah,
just have Photoshop open on the laptop and I can just slide it over onto my iPad, and
That's what I'm right now. I'm looking at getting either like a, just because I don't know. I'm familiar with Photoshop. I'm familiar with Illustrator. I'm looking, but I want some kind of a mobile setup. So I'm looking at getting either a walk-on-one or like I think Huion has a tablet. It's got to be connected to a laptop, but it's somewhat portable.
yeah.
You know, but and it can.
I went through this like panic when these first started. Like, I was just like, "Oh, you're almost there. You're almost there." Like, I had the early, like, the smaller Cintiqs, right?
Mhm.
I could have on my lap, but I still had to have like the wires, and you got the giant transformer box, that gets like 200 degrees and melts everything. And and I still bought the newer 16-inch because it works well with certain other programs I'm using. But once this thing was wireless and the connectivity's been getting better, there was latency issues between that and like I was using AstroPad. I don't know if you guys knew of AstroPad, but it was a little dongle you could buy and plug into your iPad, and it would mirror your screen. But for me, I have crappy Wi-Fi where I'm at, and I wouldn't get. I'd have bad latency issues, so I would draw a line, and it would be like half a second before the line would show up.
Oh, that's so maddening too. Like that little 1 or 2 second
we're
delay.
Almost there. We're almost there. Come on, future. So now I'm finally at the point where I'm like, okay, I'm comfortable now. But also my line of work, I have to be always on new technology. Now I'm already doing VR stuff and things like that too, just to be on top of it. But this is my way of getting comics done. And
maybe I just got to sit down and give myself some time and just figure Procreate out.
I did two things.
I want to talk you into Fresco though.
Okay.
Fresco's really great. It's almost got a Corel Painter vibe in that.
Yeah.
You can mix paints, watercolor acts more like watercolor where it spreads and stuff. It's relaxing. The way I broke into the iPad at the very beginning, and people probably laugh, but the two things I did was watch Bob Ross, and I actually tried to follow along with Bob Ross videos and try to paint the landscapes he's doing, but with the brushes I had in Procreate, right? Like, what's the closest to a palette knife? And I actually learned a lot about how the paint works and what the limitations were at the time. But that also helped me learn the brushes so I can make my own brushes and so forth. But I don't know. I just love it. I do everything in it, and otherwise I wouldn't have so much work.
Dude, that's amazing. I'm kind of impressed by this is making me reconsider a few things because I literally have a graphic novel that's going to be 200 pages where I have to do it in a year or so. So and it's going to be digital. It's not like this, but it's like I'm thinking of strategies. Even the way I'm approaching the style and stuff like that, it's a lot looser. Like there's ways that I've made it like more possible. Right. But I'm like, if an iPad would even speed that process up, that might be worth considering. So
I think even if you use the iPad in the same way you're doing it for real now, there's certain corners that are cut, like scanning, like using your ruler there. Like there's certain, with Procreate, draw a straight line, you just hit one end, hold it down, let it go to the other side, right?
Yeah.
And, that saves a lot of those little milliseconds add up to minutes and hours, when you're doing comics. So, and I don't want to say this is the only way. It's just the way for me. I personally would prefer to do it traditional. I just know I'm not going to do it. So I don't want to lie to myself. I have so many stories in my head. This is my way to get them out.
Yeah.
And, have fun doing it. And I don't have to get out of bed. I can wake up, it's like start my work a day. And it's like, I did a comic page this morning, right? Like it's all, downhill from here.
Yeah. And I'll attest to that. The sketching, like I used to carry a sketchbook everywhere for years, and I haven't touched a sketchbook in so long because it is so fast to just pull out your iPad, which also functions as like, a boring business tool. Like I can do spreadsheets and emails and everything else. If I have a visual idea, it's like one swipe over whichever visual program you're using, and you can sketch it out real fast. And if you're using
now you can have multiple windows open on the iPad. So I have Procreate open. I can have my mail up on another one, or reference, have Google.
Yeah, because it does split screen pretty intuitively as well. Yeah. It's pretty slick. I don't know, Josh. I think it might be something to look into.
Yeah.
Because
your best bet would be just write a 1-page, 2-page comic story and just do that. See if you like it or.
So Josh, this weekend I'll lend you my iPad Pro for a couple
maybe
hours.
you can sell me on it. We'll see. Because right now I'm like one of those guys who I still use an old school Wacom tablet because like the screen just kind of messed me up when I was working digitally.
Really?
Yeah. So I still use the one where you're like your hands over here and you're looking up.
Right.
Yeah, I was doing that because I have a mobile. I picked up this little tiny one just for work because right now I'm over at my girlfri's house.
A lot of artists still work that way. I mean, a lot of my artists still work that way.
The last like job I had, I worked. I had a Cintiq at home and I had a Intuos, at work, and I would switch back and forth. But now it's like. I was working on that thing today. It's like, oh man, once I got that Cintiq, it's just like, I don't know. I got so used to using it. But,
well, that's kind of how this was for me because like I like the Cintiq.
So I did have a question about.
Oh, sorry, I got lag, but it was too heavy on my lap.
It's a beast. Mine is. I've got an old. I think I'm gonna get a new one when I build my new studio, but the one I have is like it's the 24 HD and it's an older one, and those things are like workhorses. They go forever. But this thing, if you try to lift it, you could like
hernia.
Use it as a workout tool, like or something. It is not portable at all. This thing is super heavy, and it doesn't. But the newer ones you can put on the arm and swivel them around a little more. They're not mobile, but but you can move them around and stuff. But I did have a question about Procreate because I had heard that you had mentioned if you like resize something and if it cuts off, it goes to the edge, it'll cut it off. But I also heard there was some
resize.
Yeah, but I also heard I also heard that there's something where if you scale up, then
Yeah, you
something
can get some
about
weird
the
pixelation.
resolution gets degraded or something like that.
Yeah, when you're bringing in other images, I've noticed that it's weird. I don't know how to answer that because sometimes it does it for me, sometimes it doesn't. I haven't really researched it all that much because it hasn't bothered me for the amount of work the kind of work I'm doing. I'm not really bringing in things and resizing up. I'm usually scaling down, right?
Yeah, because I could, at the very least, I could totally see doing like sketching the whole book out, thumbnail, and like Procreate, and then because those sketches they don't have to be like super high quality, and then import it to
that
like
I have seen.
Clip
You know,
Studio
when I do
something.
thumbnails, I'll blow the thumbnail up.
Yeah,
but I kind of don't care, you know, the quality of that. And well, why don't I show some stuff? Talking about this is making me want to draw. Watching Josh draw, I want to.
Everyone's drawing. Everyone's drawing but me.
I feel like with your timing, David, by the time one of us, like Corey, finishes a little bit of that page that he's working on, and I finish the panel, you'd have like 3 pages done.
I'll be lucky if I get one, but when I'm on the on a good run there, I can knock a page out pretty fast. But
so awesome.
So what I did for everyone watching, for this first part, I made a little movie, right? So I got a little movie file where I start with the thumbs and how I do lettering and borders. We'll talk over it. It's just some images. That part won't be live. But then after that, then I'll switch to drawing.
Okay.
Love it.
Drawing the actual thing for you. So let me call this up. Suspense.
Yeah. You're ready, everyone in the chat.
Ladies and gentlemen, exclusive for Artcasters.
We did test this out beforehand, and it worked smooth before. So
yeah, here we go. All right. Go to my windows.
I'm waiting for it.
Here it comes. Okay, can you guys see that?
All right, let me add that to the stream. Yeah. Okay.
Lovely.
All right, cool. So why don't I do this little movie thing, and then we can talk about it, and then if you have questions or anyone else, we can.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, so this is just when I'm on my iPad. So first off, I make a template, right? Like 11 by 17. And what I did, if you can see there on layer 1, right here, I've already made this like 11 by 17 with a blue box that's 10 by 15.
Okay.
I just use that. I just keep it in my photos, and then I just drag it in whenever I want to start a new comic, right? And I drop that in. So then I kind of know what my reference is there without any lines. It's just a reference.
Yeah.
You know, and then I just start thumbing. So this was what I'll draw later, but I was just doing some thumbs, had no story in mind, but I just figured, it's a guy creating an abomination and decided, it's turning on him, for fun, like a kid's book.
As abominations do.
Yep. It's not their fault. So let me skip ahead. So I did that. Then I go to just showing Metabang Paint.
Metabang Paint. Okay.
So Metabang Paint is free. A lot of people on here probably have used it. And it's free, but it just has a ton of freaking ads, right? But it's kind of like a Manga Studio or Photoshop.
Okay.
You can do full drawing there. But the thing I use it for is that it's got presets for a comic book 11 by 17, but the thing that's cool is I can do my borders on here, right? So the border thing is easy. You just click that button, you set what your width of your line is, and then you can just draw a line across and it breaks your borders up, right? And there's a lot of software that does that, but I just like this because I can do it real quick. I've already did my thumbs. I kind of know what my page layout's going to be. So I'll do this, and then I'll export it as a transparent PNG.
Okay.
Now, the quality on this is like the line quality is, it's going to have the jaggies, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I usually just use as a template because I like to hand draw the borders anyhow. So back in Procreate, I'll bring this image in. This one I just kind of resized to fit my blue square I had before. And, that's pretty much it. And then I just kind of, on this, I'm just resizing my thumbs.
Yeah.
Where I would want them, and where I know I might have some type. And usually I do the type before I ink in case my drawing, I'll fall in love with a drawing and then realize I don't have any room for type, plot. So then I go into, for me, I'm using Comic Life, right? So when I do a comic for image, right, I usually have a letterer. I don't have to deal with the lettering, right? It's done in Illustrator. It's vector-based. It's fine. But when I'm doing stuff for myself, either, again, maybe out of laziness, I don't know. I don't like Illustrator. I just don't adapt to a vector-based world. So, so I use Comic Life, and then I export them as PNGs or high-end JPEGs and bring them in, right? So I use Comic Life. It's normally $30, and it's a full-on program that they have another one called Comic Draw, the same company, this Plasque, I don't know. So they have one called Comic Draw, which is a full drawing program, and Comic Life, which is more, you can see from the image there, it's like, hey, take your photos and put cool little word balloons on it.
Yeah, yeah.
It's one of those, but I like this version they have. It's a $5 version on the iPad. You go in, it's a little hokey. It's like, your title here. I don't care. I just bring in my crappy JPEG. All I know is I can make it look like real type, and I can bring in fonts or like the Lambot fonts if you purchase those. So, I can just type it, and the balloon you can move the balloon around and it'll fit with the words inside.
Oh, okay. That's really cool. You
can control the tails, which way the tails point. But there's, even for this little $5 app, it's awesome. You can go in, you can change jagged, you can change the thickness, you can save those, so you can keep doing those for, like, if a certain character has a certain word balloon. You can add additional balloons like that where they're connected.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, so this is my way of doing it fast. And even if I'm doing it, if we already have the script and what the type is, okay, so let me pause there. So I'll do that even as a placeholder for the letterer to see how I interpreted where the lettering should go.
Yeah.
I just give them that on a separate layer. They can toss it out, but use it as a starting point. So
is that size that you're bringing up? Is that?
That's what I wanted to show you. So You're right. This is one where I do size up, but I haven't seen the pixelation. So here's what I did. This was my little cheat because I didn't feel like Comic Life was probably the highest quality.
Yeah.
But so I made this one because if you use Comic Life, the $30 version, right, you can actually export on transparency on PNGs and stuff. But I didn't really need that for what I'm doing. And I've noticed the print quality works for me, where I kind of like how the word balloons and the lettering all kind of match with the artwork. It doesn't look like a vector base that was put on top of a painted art. It kind of works with it. And I kind of got that look with this, at least for my style. So, so I output as a high quality JPEG. Now, this doesn't mean that's its true size, Scott. Sometimes when it brings things in, it just kind of resizes them. It doesn't mean it's at 100%. But you can hit this thing, just fit the canvas.
That's what I was wondering.
Right? Yeah. So when you hit fit the canvas, it'll just automatically go to the closest side, right? But what I did was I made my type size large enough on Comic Life that I know this is the size I want it to be.
Yeah,
So
and is it always going to import at the right size? Because
yeah.
so
now,
is your type? Will your type remain the same point size throughout, or is that you're
because
eyeballing it?
I'm doing it consistently throughout.
Okay, got it,
Right?
got it.
So so I always use what I got set up in Comic Life. I know if I'm doing fit to canvas, it obviously isn't fitting completely on the top to bottom, and it doesn't line up with the borders. I'm gonna have to move them.
But you can move them.
Yeah, but I know
you have to. Yeah, I assume you have to cut out the white, right? Looks like.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Which I do, and again,
yeah,
because I make it kind of part of the artwork, so.
Okay,
there's much better ways to do this.
But it looks quick. I mean,
that's what it is for me.
Like,
again, I can be in bed, just do this real quick. Look, I got the thinking done for my image, right? So that's what I did. I had to do the thinking done before I came on the podcast. So the thinking is done.
Yeah.
Now we can.
I don't know. After I finish my book, I think the next project, I might want to go even looser style, which is funny because the book I was working on previous to the Young and the Dead that I'm working on now, it was a lot more detailed style, and I kind of said I gotta come up with a style that's a little looser. But now I'm thinking I might need to come up with something even more loose and because I'd rather, I don't know, I'm just at the point where I'd rather be get a little more out there, because I mean I love your stuff and it's very loose, but you've got so much stuff out there. And it's just, I mean, I was making the comparison to like
it didn't used to be loose. It's just
but I was making the comparison to
stop caring what people thought, and then that's when I grew and my style kind of,
and people gravitate to that too. Because I say, like, I was going to say, like, I look at Scotty Young stuff and it just looks so loose and so it kind of dashed off, but try to duplicate it and you can't. I mean, it's just like but he can just jot that stuff off like it's nobody's business, and it's just, it looks great.
So, do you want to share the screen again, or is it?
Let's see, the same one. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So, I was going to show some of the comics.
Yeah, definitely.
If you want. So this one I'm working on. This is one for me. I'm trying to click it on the computer.
Can you show that one that you showed us with the ads, or is that a different one? That was the other one.
That's a different, but
okay, never mind.
This one I'm just doing like these B movie type stories, right? And these are just a little promo piece. And let me grab.
And you're gonna do this as a web comic or a printed comic?
I have no idea. Probably a printed comic.
Okay.
So let me see. So just to give people kind of a rundown of what the layers are, is I got my bottom layers, kind of like my background flats. I got my character flats. Then I got my inks. So that's just that. Then I do just a little color treatment, some blood, some blur on certain action. There's my border. This is my border that I didn't. You can see the jaggeds on it where I haven't redrawn it yet.
Yeah.
Then I do some of my own, sound effects. Here's that type.
Nice.
I was shown before. And then just kind of mute the colors a little. And what I'll do is I still like to work in RGB because I share a lot of my artwork digitally too, and I want it to be vibrant, right? So I do this, but then in Procreate, I got a separate file that's just CMYK, right? And I just export these as, high-res TIFFs and bring them back into the CMYK version, make any adjustments that I need to, and then that becomes my master for
for printing.
Printer. But I still have, a version that's RGB here.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm always like, anytime I have a color that I see runs into that where it gives you the little message that it's like it's too bright for CMYK, I always dial it back too, so it's safe.
Right.
But But if you're going to be putting stuff on the web, I mean, there's a big difference. I'm just always afraid to go too heavy on the RGB stuff.
Yeah, but you can see, it's pretty loose, but I don't know. I just want to have fun.
I also think, like, David, that makes a lot of sense that you'd like working in RGB too, because it's like you're doing a lot of animation. So you're used to working in RGB,
I'm used to, right?
Yeah.
And I kind of know what certain colors are going to do in CMYK and how they print it. I made those mistakes in that first image book, right? So now I can kind of see, where my reds are going to get messed up. And
hey, I'm curious about the thing you were talking about with making sure you have the type before you do the art. Was that a hard learned lesson too? Because
not necessarily, and there are no rules that I truly follow, right? It's whatever I'm in the mood for. Sometimes it's just the drawing takes over. Like a page like this, I knew there wasn't going to be much talking here, so this is one where I did the type after because it's just people yelling. Save the girls. It's a lot of that stuff, so I kind of knew, but I saved space for it.
That's cool. Yeah, because I like the first graphic novel I did. Well, like I did all the art, and then I put the panels, like the word bubbles, over it, and I'd like leave enough space. But I've since transferred to exactly what you're talking about, where it's like I lay out everything. That way, I'm not wasting time like drawing areas I don't need to draw. Yeah, that's cool.
We got another question from Jim. He wants to know if you've ever dabbled in the animation feature in Procreate.
I have quite a bit, actually. I love it. I mean, in my job, we have some little bit higher software that we use and stuff for that. But I use it actually quite a bit, even just for fun, just to doodle. But I'm a storyboard artist. Is what I grew up in this industry as. And you have to draw fast. You have to draw things you're not always comfortable with. The human form, animal forms that you haven't, angles you've never drawn before, right? So you have to adapt to that, and that's animation, right? So storyboards are just the key frames without the in betweens. So so I still do it a lot just because it's fun.
Okay, another question from Victor. I think you mentioned this, but he says, question for David: is his document already laid out comic printed size, or is it 11 by 17?
It's 11 by 17. So like this one, let me see. I can look at the canvas here. Canvas information, dimensions. So this is 11 by 17 at 400 DPI, right? And then this will tell you also like how many layers you can have. So you hit layers. So at those dimensions, my maximum layers are 18, right?
So
the
layers are dependent on the file size?
Yes, there's actually a limitation on it, surprisingly. Some people complain about that. They want to take full use of the storage space. For me, the only time I run into that problem is when I'm putting all these pages into that CMYK version, because I'll probably hit maybe like 23 layers, and then I gotta make a new file. But what I use that CMYK version for is I put all the pages in, like page 1 through 23, because then I could just export a high res PDF directly from that already CMYK. I don't have to bring it into Acrobat or InDesign or anything like that, right? I can just export directly from Procreate, have my PDF ready. So this way, maybe I have 2 PDFs. I just merge them, and you're done. But yeah, I work. These are 11 by 17, and
we've got another question that is semi-related. That was early on. I'm working with Sketchbook Pro and wanted to ask your opinion about the right size for a medium-sized graphic novel. I'm working with 1366 by 2087. Is that good, or do I need to change it? And so there's a couple ways to understand how this works, and a lot of people kind of misunderstand it, but the basics are you never want to go less than 150 pixels per linear inch, right? And so it's not, if you measure an inch of it, you want to be ideally 300 or above.
Yeah.
For printing. Yeah.
For printing, even at 150 is going to be pretty speckly.
And TV is 70.
And if you're working larger, I mean, if you're working, like if you wanted to print at 600 DPI, and if you're working 11 by 17, if the printed comic book size is, I don't know, whatever that weird size American comic books are printed at, I always forget.
Let's just estimate
it's
it's
about
like half.
About half of that. So then you come to, so even if you're working at 300, you can, because you're working larger, you can scale down and export it. If you export it at like 600.
And
but,
so
you don't want to be
300.
So the rule is you can always make something bigger, smaller, but you want to avoid making something smaller bigger. And so I would always work a little bit larger than you need. And so if you're looking at like 10 inches is easy math to do. So if one of the sides is 10 inches, I would do it at minimum 3,000 pixels, because that would give you 300 pixels per inch along that edge. And so that's how I would do it, is at least 3,000 or above if it's 10 inches. And so you just take the number of inches, multiply it by 300, and that'll give you that one side.
Yeah. And if it's for print, like there's a couple tips I've learned too. Like if you're doing a book for black and white, it's actually better to do it at like 600.
Yeah.
Or even higher. Like you can go up to like 1,200. And again, you're in a better position if you need to scale down. But like black and white without the color kind of in the background can look really like crumbly and crappy at like 300. So it really depends on like what the final product is.
Closes up, right, Josh?
Yeah.
Like the printer ink, depending on what paper they're printing on and stuff too.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and like what's another tip? If you can have aliased lines on your blacks, unless you're doing like if you're doing really sketchy looking stuff, you can pull off not. But if you're trying to have like really clean, like solid blacks, like aliased lines really helps. I'll show you guys a little trick with that. So like this, the reason that black looks like solid black on this is like, aliasing. So if you saw this on the computer screen and you like viewed it really close up, it would like be like step ladders. Although this was all traditionally inked, it's like, I think that was another tip that helps.
Well, and it's also like color behind it too, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah. But yeah, rich blacks work really nice too. That's so rad.
We took this question. I pulled it up earlier, but I'll put it up again. As far as Clip Studio Paint, the layers aren't limited. Procreate does it because of the way it's designed to use the iPad resources. So, yeah, I mean, I've thought about, because I usually do most of my digital drawing in Clip Studio Paint. It's just, for the iPad though, it's a subscription, really which, if I used it, I mean, it'd be worth it, but.
Well, it's Marvel.
What did you say, David?
It's Marvel and DC, it's VHS and Betamax. It's like whatever you're comfortable with, whatever's going to make you the most productive is the right answer. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
If you're, I was Photoshop forever. And even before that, I was a PC guy. Now, I hated Mac. Now I live by Mac, right?
Yeah.
So it's whatever makes your life easier at the time, whatever has, whatever makes you the most creative and excited about your art is really what you should use.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the main thing is, that the iPad has a bunch of different options now. When it first came out, there weren't that many, and they weren't.
Yeah, it had more limitations to it for sure.
Yeah, but even just being like, when it first came out, you had to get a Pro, And if you're budget sensitive,
Yeah.
you can get a basic iPad and the older Apple Pencil, and it'll be smaller, but you can still do it. And so there's some stuff. But nowadays, there are so many different apps out there. Like find one and learn it, and just do it. I mean, I like Fresco. I haven't used Clip Studio.
Yeah.
You know, there's some really good things about Procreate.
Yeah.
Photoshop.
Well, now Procreate can also bring in 3D models, right? So I'm using like Nomad or Forger to just sculpt, kind of like a ZBrush sculpt, you know. But you can bring it into Procreate now, and if your UVs are correct, you can just paint on the 3D model quickly and still use your same brushes and stuff, which is a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's cool.
And you know, you don't have to, as Dave was talking about, you don't have to use just one program. I mean, I don't know about. I think everyone here probably uses multiple. Just, you know, David had the 3 programs that he was the other 2, in addition to Procreate. Like when I do a comic book, you know, I'll sketch it. I'll do all my pencils and ink. If it's digitally, I'll do all my pencils and ink in Clip Studio. And then I do my lettering in Illustrator, and then I bring that into Photoshop. I do my coloring in Photoshop, even though, I mean, Clip Studio Paint, I mean, people can do great coloring in there. I just haven't kind of learned how to do it yet. So it's like part of it's kind of what you're used to. But yeah, I mean, don't be afraid to use whatever works for you.
Yeah, I think like another thing that we've kind of bypassed here, obviously, is like, I mean, David knows how to draw, and that's a huge. That's the thing. Like
at least fake it well enough.
Yeah, but I mean, like learning basic forms and structures and like drawing is essential, because like if you have that skill, you can bring that to any program, you know, and get comfortable with it. You know, that's really cool. It's fun to see. It's kind of like
I used to be a photographer before I realized I hated weddings and engagements, and it's just I don't like people that much, and so I was like, oh, the only money in photography is in people. So, but anyway, they would say, you know, there's this big discussion, you know, what's the best camera? You know, is it Nikon? Is it Canon? You know, is it full frame? Is it mirrorless or whatever? And everybody's having these big debates, and the answer is, the best camera is the one that you have with you.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, you know, you could have, you know, go get a Hasselblad or a, you know, whatever. And if you're not carrying that around with you, you're going to miss the shot. And so,
and better gear doesn't make you a better artist.
Right,
it just gives you more opportunities with your art. But, you know, the thing I told some, you know, people who worked for me and stuff in the past is just like, you know, they were always talking about get the newest gear. And I'm like, but look at all the things that you loved growing up that made you want to be an artist.
Yeah.
All of your gear you own now is probably better than what that was made with, right? You know, they didn't have iPads or, you know, like movies, you know, we're all watched them on grainy VHS and bootlegs, you know, it's like, you know, and that's what we fell in love with. So it's really what's on, you know, the story, the characters.
And that's what's great about the iPad is a lot of times it's the thing that I have with me. I prefer a giant Cintiq and a whole setup, and I've got my Stream Deck with all my macros and everything, but like I don't have that with me. But I do have my iPad with me most of the time.
Right. And you know, I'm sure too, Corey, like that gets you, like you'll use it for things to get it started, and then you'll finish it off in better software, right? Like or on your desktop and stuff.
Yeah.
Especially with your animation and things, right? So.
Yeah.
I feel like another thing like that is interesting, like being a dad, it's like I've had crayon drawing sessions with my kid. And I gotta say, like it's a good reminder to like sit down with like a 6-year-old or 7-year-old and like just have a box of crayons and just remember like how fun it is to draw with like limited tools.
Well, like I think that's how I get like a big leather chair. I feel like a little kid in a big chair drawing He-Man, you know, like those were, you know, the things I loved as a kid. And
yeah, I love that. I also think like different styles for different stories, like being able to work in multiple styles is like a really beneficial thing. And like, yeah, like Scott was saying, like finding like a looser style. I'm
Like,
really
if I was
eager to
doing
get into that
logos,
book.
like vector-based logos, I wouldn't be doing them in bed, right?
Yeah.
But for this, it's like, this gets my juices flowing, and you know, I'm in a relaxed state.
Yeah.
You know?
There's some pretty cool vector stuff on the iPad too, though, like Affinity Designer.
I haven't used that yet.
It's like a $50 program, and so if you're looking for like an Adobe killer because you don't want to pay the monthly fee or you can't get it through work or whatever, it's a one-time thing, and you do that one-time thing, and then it's is somebody opening a hard candy?
It's not hard.
You do the sound.
I feel like we immediately slipped into an ASMR all of a sudden. But yeah, you can. It's like a one-time. I think it's 50 for the desktop, and it's like 20 or 30 for the iPad or something.
That may be a new lettering thing for me to look at.
Oh, it's pretty slick. Yeah, I mean, it is not. I mean, it's not 30 years old, so it doesn't have all of the same like depth that you would get in Illustrator, but they have gotten the essentials of what you need for vector stuff down. I like it. I think I need to spend another 10 or 20 hours with it to really like feel comfortable and fast, but but playing with it was cool.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think I don't know.
Yeah,
you guys almost have me convinced now. I think I might have to look into that.
Well, if it doesn't work for you, don't blame me after you.
Oh no, 100%. Like
on an iPad.
I have video evidence.
It's not cheap.
Now, yeah, I'm holding you liable.
I'm sure it's paid for itself a million times over for you, Dave.
Yeah, exactly.
Creating all this. Yeah.
I'm gonna go get my Apple kickback here after this.
Right.
You know what's crazy though? Like I saw that thing sweep the NCS like in LA, where it's like one guy showed up with like an iPad, like and just like once the iPad Pro came out, and just like did some sketches, passed it around. The next week, like 3 cartoonists at it. And these are like a lot of these guys are like New Yorker guys, like guys who've just done stuff traditionally forever. And just before you know it, it's like 80% of the people are using them.
Yeah. That's what I was doing, at the office and our things is like, I just do a quick little tutorial for people. And, it's like, hey, look, we can do this and just, have fun drawing, and
yeah, it's funny how some people just like make that switch, and like for me, I'm still kind of like I still haven't done it yet. But even like Jim Lujan, I mean, he was using Flash for the longest time, and he's kind of one of those guys that's he found something at work and he stuck with it. But then he started using the iPad, and I think he does everything. Doesn't he, Corey? Does he do everything? He might still be in the chat, but
he does. Yeah, he'll do all his assets in the iPad, but he's still animating on Flash.
Oh, he is, because he did ask about animating in Procreate.
Yeah, too, Procreate and Fresco have some very limited animation, but it's not.
For
you don't get
Procreate, it's more of a traditional sense, and like you can draw frames and export them as a movie or a GIF, right? But it's like you're not going to do like a minute's worth of animation in it, right? Like it's just for some quick fun studies or something like that. But I wouldn't use it for full on animation. Like I still use because I did some music videos for Rob Zombie where I animated them and that, and I still do it with After Effects.
Yeah.
Just because that's what I was good at. And
what I just found the animation feature in Fresco. And I'll do traditional animation with Time Lord from Battle Axe as a plugin in Photoshop, and then import that into After Effects. So when I want to get some traditional elements in there, and I'm really curious, I've got to test it out to see if the Fresco timeline would translate in a PSD into that. Because if that's the case, and I can do, but I do 1 or 2 seconds sometimes of traditional animation. If I can do that on the iPad, that's a game changer. Because what no one has said is you can do all this while you're pooping. That's the biggest thing. David's talking about doing it in bed, but I'm talking about not playing stupid phone games.
How many times are you pooping, Corey? This might be a doctor situation here.
Yeah, well, I'm a very regular guy. We'll say that. But no, seriously, like if you think of the amount of downtime that you have, where you're just scrolling through your phone, just doing nothing, like you literally could replace that phone with an iPad and do a ton of, like, be fairly productive, which is, anyway. So
yeah, I mean, I think that's a good lesson in general. It's like the way that these things get done, there's no like magic trick to it. You just kind of have to make that time that you'd be like, even if you're not using an iPad. And I can see the advantage of an iPad in that case, because maybe it'll take away some excuses, But either way, It's like the time your friends are spending watching and catching up on a TV show or whatever it is, like, or watching the game. Like, if you're doing art during that time, you're inevitably going to have like a lot of personal work to show as well as professional work.
Yeah, well, and that's kind of what I do, because we have our family TV time, right?
Yeah.
And that's where I do a lot of illustration work and stuff like that, because you just sit there, watch a movie, and doodle.
Yeah, and I could see that being like way easier than like, because right now if I'm doing digital work, I'm doing it on like a desktop, so it's like I can see the portability of that being really nice and relaxing.
Well, even just as a digital sketchbook, right?
Yeah,
which I also use it for, just doing pencil type work, and just trying to get that look, and just doing sketches that, for something you may want to turn into a comic later or whatever.
So is that a custom brush, David, that you got
this
there?
one? Yeah. I either got brushes or found some and make my own. So like here, this is my pencil brush. I made.
Yeah, I've actually created a number of brushes in Procreate, because I've done a couple of, Procreate products, even though I haven't really created a comic book in there. But I still haven't got that. I still haven't been able to duplicate that brush that's in Clip Studio Paint.
The pencil's been the hardest thing. This is the closest I've gotten, at least for my hand, like if I'm drawing a face or something. I mean, there's definitely repeated.
It doesn't even look like you use pencils. Like your thumbnails are so rough, and it looks, I mean, you've been just inking like straight over it.
Yeah, it depends. I mean,
yeah,
this is just for fun, like maybe if it was my real comic, I'd do a tighter pass and then ink it. But for this, Then I got this ink. This is my other favorite ink. So I have a cleaner ink, and then I have kind of a rougher.
Yeah, that's
depending on my, what I'm trying to do with it. In up close, it's pixely and wonky, but when it's gonna be printed like this, it doesn't really matter, because it's all gonna close up anyhow.
Yeah.
Oh, this is the other good thing, Scott, is when you mess up, you can just do finger gestures. So you just hit it with 2 fingers and it'll bring it back.
Yeah.
It's like,
I think that for me, that's part of it. Like all the different shortcuts that I'm just not used to, that you just, and it's just a matter of learning them.
Just holding your finger down for a second there is my color picker.
Yeah.
So that helps.
That's rad.
And then now they have it, if you can see on the side there in my gray bar, I have this set up because I'm left-handed, but it's usually on the other side. But there's these little markers. So these are like inking markers that I've set. So like this is my fine point inking. This is my outline, thicker outline ink. You know,
that's cool.
So like there's my normal. Click on that. Now I got thicker, and it's just like, you know, that you can switch them that fast, and you're not guessing at percentages and crap like that.
I like that too. I think like, also just like kind of figuring out like a limited toolbox probably helps, you know?
Yeah.
It's like,
Well, and I got like color palettes. So like this palette up here is like my comic book. Like for this certain book I'm doing, right? I'll have different palettes. And then in here you can have all these different palettes, you know? And what's cool too, like here's ones so there's DC Comics. That's off of old DC printing.
Okay, cool.
There's Bob Hope, where I would take the old Bob Hope comics because I like the colors that they were using.
Oh, really?
I would just bring them in and grab the colors. But now they have a thing. Yeah, there's Bob Ross colors, right? So these were the colors I matched off his paint. So when I was doing trees and crap, Archie comics.
And can you export those palettes anywhere? Are they transferable?
Yeah, you can export them to other Procreate users. But one thing that's really cool too now is that I'm not necessarily sure how to do it because I haven't really, but you can bring in an image and then it'll make a color palette based off that image. So you know, if you did a piece of art before, you liked the piece of art and you like their colors, you could bring that in as a color palette.
That's cool.
They also got this card, so when you pick a color, it'll tell you the actual color name and stuff too.
Oh, nice.
I guess maybe if you're using Pantones or something, that's helpful. But
that would be very helpful. Yeah, that's awesome.
Adam had a question. He said, "Awesome art, David." He wants to know some of your art influences. And while you answer that, I'm going to step out for just a quick second. I'll be right back.
Cool. Well, there are many. And there's some obvious ones like Bernie Wrightson was obviously a huge influence, but Jack Davis from the old DC comics had kind of a cartoony style. Sergio Aragones, but I kind of grew up with like Mad Magazine and Cracked Magazine and all those when they were big, and I really got into, you know, the whole satire and Mort Drucker and Don Martin and all these artists that were on there that were kind of cartoony. You had someone like John Severin, it had this cartoony but realistic vibe. I really kind of gravitated towards that, you know, but then you know, kind of mature, get more into comics, and then it was like Art Adams, you know, was a huge fan of his stuff. And you know, but it's a little bit of everything, like movies, you know, music, it all kind of plays into it, right? So but then, you know, then if you want to get older, you know, I was a big fan of you know, in college and art school of Arthur Rackham, who was a pen and ink illustrator, you know, in the 1900s, who I think 1900s, but he's been around, and he would do like the Alice in Wonderland illustrations and you know, fairy tale illustrations and stuff.
It's awesome. Yeah, I feel like there's definitely like now I'm blanking out on his name, the Mad Magazine guy who did Two-Fisted Tales.
There's Will Elder, Harvey Kurtzman.
Kurtzman, that's it.
Yeah.
Your style reminds me quite a bit of Kurtzman too.
Oh, thanks.
Some of the looseness of the line.
Yeah, I don't know. There's something just fun about their art that I liked.
Yeah.
But, you know, you just kind of draw what you're comfortable with.
What's that, Scott?
Since I stepped away, not with because I was curious about that question. You don't have to go into why, but just list who they are and
yeah. Well, there was Bernie Wrightson, Jack Davis.
Oh yeah,
all the Mad Magazine guys, Mort Drucker, Don Martin.
Oh yeah,
Sergio Aragones, Will Elder, Harvey Kurtzman, all those guys. And then,
then when I got older, it became like Art Adams, like McFarlane when he first came out. That whole '90s. Thing. Anyone was doing something different.
Yeah.
And then when I got into college, I learned about Arthur Rackham, Dore, and this sound pretentious, but but those guys were illustrators, and it opened my eyes to you just didn't have to be an oil painter.
Yeah.
To create works of art, right? Or
what you consider a masterpiece of any sort. And, in a lot of ways, they were illustrators, right? So that was, that was pretty eye-opening for me.
Yeah, I think illustration can open your mind for, I've had people who've read my comics and don't see comics in my comics. Like, I don't do, because I don't necessarily draw in a house style or something, and it's I think that once you dip into illustration, it's it kind of makes you realize the breadth of style that's available. So I feel it's definitely something to familiarize yourself with if you're going to do cartooning.
Totally. It's when I was in college, they always say those are your experimental years. And it's for me, it was with comics, it's I got into American Splendor, the Harvey Picar stuff, stuff that was not considered traditional comic stories. But it's I tried out for, Image and got my rejection letter from Rob Liefeld. I got, I was told, numerous times that
Rob Liefeld, draw more like me, like all my clones.
And that is true because I've had many friends now who I know who've worked for him, and that was part of their jobs. But that's comics. But
did your rejection letter come in a pocket?
Dude, with a lot of lines. It was a 501 blues pocket, and it had a lot of lines in it. But no crotch. Little feet. But,
so good.
But seriously, when I
got it, it was a Xerox of a rejection letter. It's they've rejected so many people, I didn't even warrant a real one. I got a Xerox, and back then it was I don't know, their Xerox machine must have been down there with your scanner, Scott, because it was crooked on the paper. It was nobody took any love in
they went out of their way to just make it look like they didn't care.
Let's make this hurt. This one should hurt.
Yeah, I need to get one of the old Xerox machines because I want to create some kind of pack that will duplicate that kind of look so you can add it to your comics. So I'm trying to figure out how I can get that look, but
or eBay.
Get a real one.
There is a unique look to that that's so cool.
It's the old band posters, right?
Yeah. I was looking through some old band flyers that I made in high school, and I was there's something cool about just the crappiness of it. But it's solid blacks, so it would blow out lines in such a really cool way. Yeah, that would be cool to own.
Keith's asking what about Edward Gorey, if he was one of your influences?
Oh yeah. Absolutely. I mean, him and Charles Adams.
Oh yeah.
So what was was it Masterpiece Theater that had an Edward Gorey animation?
Yeah, it was Masterpiece Theater. It had his
Little opening with the smoking gun.
I absolutely still think that's one of the best examples of good limited animation,
Yeah,
so cool.
You know what? I love that in Wild Wild West. You remember?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Oh yeah, UPA.
UPA would be a fun style to do for a whole book.
Yeah,
I'd love to do that.
It's just crazy watching this page come together. It's so, I mean, I'm just thinking if I was this
it's
fast,
pretty crappy, but
you add the color, you add all that. I mean, but
yeah.
I mean,
I'm just trying to tell a story.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's why. I mean, you can definitely tell that your experience as storyboard artist because I mean, in that, from, what, I worked as a storyboard artist for a few years, not on staff or anything, but just as freelance projects. And it's so fast paced and everything is, you get a call. I don't think I ever had one job where they didn't need it the next day.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
It's fast paced and
it would be so much because I mean,
whether you don't have time to be not confident with your art. For me, it's usually like, okay,
yeah, and it
that
doesn't
sucks. I'll do better on the next one.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter as long as as long as you can interpret the story, what's going on, and everything.
Yeah.
Well,
I did a lot of commercial stuff, which was they wanted a little tighter, But
usually Scott, that's for executives who don't know what they're looking at, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Because all it is a blueprint for, you're gonna have if it's live action, a cinematographer, a DP, making your pretty picture. So it's proof of concept, but it
would be blueprint. So much quicker now, digitally. I mean, with storyboards. And who was it? Was it somebody we had on here or? Did we have a storyboard? I'm trying to think, but is there
Caligula does a lot of storyboards.
Right, but we had somebody specific, either that or I was listening to somebody, but specifically talking about storyboards, and it sounds like there's almost like a industry standard program that storyboard artists are using.
Storyboard Pro.
Right.
It was. She did The Dreamer. And
Laura.
Laura
Ennis,
right.
Yeah, it's Storyboard Pro pretty much has the standard and Monopoly, and it's a vector-based program. And
crazy!
It's like I use it. You can still do.
Why though? I'm wondering why it's a vector-based program.
Because you can
reuse pieces and zoom.
Blow
them up or whatever. For me, it's drawing. It's crazy. Like, this is where I take one step too many, but my one step too many is still faster than me doing it completely in a way I'm not comfortable with. So I'll draw a lot of my boards in Procreate and then just bring them into Storyboard Pro to do my timing or any additional effects and drawing. But this is just still a little bit faster for me.
Yeah,
that's rad.
Well, we're at about an hour and a half. Do you guys want to start wrapping it up, and we'll go around and kind of do what we usually do?
Oh man, I didn't get my page done. Look, only one panel left.
Okay. Well, so you're quick. I think you're going to do it. Let's. Okay, we can go on for a little bit longer. If you guys have any questions while David's,
I like the challenge. I like the challenge.
Yeah, it's like 24-hour comic book day here, but he's going to do it in an hour and a half. Well, actually, I mean, we probably talked for a good 45 minutes before you started.
That's
drawing,
true.
So.
Yeah. Okay. Scott, I just thought of a great episode idea. We should have like a 24-hour comic stream where we have Chelsea on here with Hartman. I'm curious.
Oh yeah,
who would do better, like on that challenge? Because holy moly,
they will win because I don't have 24 hours. But I'll do my best to get it done in like 3 or 4. How many pages?
I don't know I don't remember the specifics. We'd have to have David walk us through them, I think.
Yeah, I think it's is it a full comic or?
Yeah, I think you're supposed to.
It's 24 pages in 24 hours. I think
okay. Wow. I could do that.
Oh yeah, it's a page an hour. Yeah. Well, you could definitely do that, obviously, because I think 24-hour comic challenge wouldn't even be much of a challenge for David.
Yeah, I have a feeling he'd knock it out, man.
Well, he's. We could start wrapping up because he's almost done. So we do have. We'll give him a little more time, and then a minute later, he's like,
yeah. Now I got to draw the backgrounds.
We do have a few questions. You want to do a lightning round, David?
Sure.
Okay, so go
Pull them up.
go answer quickly. So Keeman Chase Williams says, any animators you take interest in or inspiration from?
I mean, that's tough. It's more honestly.
Yeah, they're
shows.
usually kind of behind the scenes, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, or shows, but I mean, there's certain guys like Robert Valley, his stuff's really cool, and Jamie Hewlett, does Gorillas stuff.
Oh,
Not
yeah.
that he necessarily animates it all, but it's clearly his vision. There's that kind of stuff, and then there's certain shows. It's always different. I mean, if you go old school, it's Tex Avery and Chuck Jones.
Have you guys seen the Cuphead show?
Not yet. I haven't watched it.
It is so good. It is so good.
Cool.
I love it.
I've seen a lot of the art from it.
It is so good.
I love the style of just that throwback.
Yeah.
And the name was fun. But
okay. Digital or traditional, which one is harder?
For me, traditional.
Okay.
Because I can Apple Z.
Right. Yeah. How long have you been using Procreate?
Since it first came out. Because I remember even writing them letters like, you should do this. And
Right. So that's probably 5 or 6 years? 5, probably?
Yeah, must be. And, I won't dive too deep because I have hidden projects in here, but, I got tons of illustrations. It's just goes on for pages and pages and pages.
That's just beautiful. Just looking at from the thumbnail.
Yeah, here's some of the sketchbook kind of stuff, just doodling, trying to get that pencil vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah, and David, you post those a lot on Facebook too.
Yeah, mainly it's Instagram, and it just goes to Facebook. I'm not on Facebook that much anymore, but I'm on Instagram quite a bit.
That's awesome. So you guys should be following David on Instagram if you're not already.
Yes, David Hartman art at that one.
Yeah, well, let's. Is that all the questions then, Corey?
There's one quick one. Yep. What file size do you use for storyboards?
So, that always depends. I mean, and it's more about aspect ratio. So, like, I'll do. It's weird. I'll work in 8.5 by 11 and 300 DPI, and I'll probably do like maybe 3 to 6 boards on a page like that. But it depends on your aspect ratio. If you're doing 16 by 9 or like a cinema film that's like a 2:3:5:1, that plays into it. But kind of like Corey said earlier, it's make sure your DPI is high enough, right? And even if it's 3 inches by 4 inches, if you're got a high enough DPI, it should still be all right.
Yeah.
For storyboards, anyhow.
Cool. Yeah, that was all the.
Except for Frank's question, but
Frank's question.
You like seafood?
Yes, I do actually. I'm sure there's.
I don't know if there's in reference to something you drew or just.
That's what I'm wondering. I'm waiting for the catch.
Yeah, that does sound like a setup for a joke for sure.
Yeah, like if I say yes, is that bad?
All right. Okay. So, Josh, where can everyone find you?
So you can pick up my graphic novel about two star-crossed lovers who are drawn together, even though they're polar opposites, and start having intertwining dreams and interlocking lives. So pre-order that from Graphic Mundi. You can also pre-order it basically at any bookstore. So if you want to help me out, actually, the best thing you could do is like tomorrow, go to your local Barnes and Noble and say, you guys need to stock this book.
Yeah, I got to pre-order mine. I haven't done it yet.
Sweet. Yeah. And then 2 Stories is out right now, and you can get it for a really reduced price on Amazon or order it from your local comic shop as well.
And
So,
I really like that one. I ordered that one right away. It was a very good read, Josh.
awesome. Thanks.
And Corey, what about you? What's going on over there?
You can find my stuff at coreykerr.com, and I am sharing work in progress stuff right now on this animation I'm working on Behance and Instagram. And so if you want to follow along, you can do that.
Yeah, I noticed Mike did some stuff for that too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I saw him posting something.
He did some 8-bit pixel animation.
Oh yeah, that was so cool.
It was rad.
It looks so like
what
authentic.
was that you just did?
What's that,
David? What was that you just? It looks like real quick you dropped in some like line, some like.
Oh yeah, I'm just drawing in the black background, and then I go to my border, and I just do a quick grab of the negative space, and then just delete it from my other.
Smart.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's just those are just kind of like that's kind of like
Just
a
to clean
checkerboard
it up
pattern.
and fit in the panel. Yeah.
Okay.
But
Okay. I thought that was
that way I can just draw, outside the border
Okay.
and not care.
Okay. Cool. Cool.
That's one thing that Fresco does really well that I really like, and Photoshop is you can apply layers to another layer.
Yeah, that's cool.
And so
That's
so I'll
nice.
just do one solid color layer, and then any number of layers on top of that will be masked by the alpha channel of the layer underneath it.
Have you done a video, Corey,
something like that
on Fresco?
I did one really early on. I should do another one because I understand it a lot better now.
Yeah, I know you can make like a reference layer on this. I'm not sure how many layers it affects underneath it, but
yeah. I had a there's a friend of mine that teaches in the same department I teach in, and we had kind of a dueling lecture at one point where we were trying to decide whether Fresco or Procreate was better for different types of illustration. And they both do pretty much what the others do really well. So it's kind of a Procreate is older and has more features, but Fresco is quickly catching up.
Yeah, I agree.
So they're both great though. It is one of those.
It's just what you do with them. And
it's one of those Chevy Ford Mac PC things. It's whatever your preference is, but you got to know how to draw no matter what.
All right, David, you're up. Where can everyone find your stuff or anything you want to promote?
Yeah, so Instagram, David Hartman Art. My website, sideshowmonkey.com. But I'm on Facebook, pretty much all socials, either under Sideshow or David Hartman Art. I got those 2 games coming out. I got some TV shows, but I can't talk about all of those yet. And I'll let you guys know when this book it's going to be announced for Image.
Yeah, because I definitely want to put that in my pull list.
Yeah, me too.
Well, I guess it's like graphic novel, so I mean, well, still,
Yeah. I'm not sure totally what all the details are yet. The artist is always the last to know, but it'll be fun. I'm pretty excited about it. It was a lot of fun. I helped design the characters, and create the characters and stuff. So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what those games look like too when they come out.
Oh yeah, they're really cool. Those are through Trick or Treat Studios. One's called Blood Orders, and the other is called Troll Fest.
All right.
These are such great names too.
Yeah, I love those names. Blood Orders is great.
And you can find my stuff right here on my YouTube channel. Check out Making Comics 101. Also, if you have kids and they want to learn how to make comics or any other cool thing, pretty much anything you want to learn how to do, you can sign up for DIY.org. And if you go to my video that is creating comics for kids, there's a link in there. You can get 50% off your membership and just check it out. I mean, just go there and check it. You don't, see if your kids will dig it. I don't know. Have your kids, Corey and Josh, have your kids got a chance to play around with it?
Not yet. I'm excited.
Okay. All right.
My kid has been grounded from electronics
Okay.
for a little bit. So,
all right.
she was excited, and I was
Okay.
able to use it as a punishment. So that's not probably what you intended.
multiple uses.
Yeah, and the other thing I just want to mention, there's a link in the description of this video to join our mailing list. We haven't sent anything out in a little while. We're on hiatus with sending out our mailing list because we're switching over. And I say that every time, but I actually have a kind of a hard deadline that I have as part of my goals that coming up, that I'm going to make that switch over to Substack and start sending out those emails again. So, but in the meantime, just click on that list and sign up, because the way this show works, we rotate from my channel to Josh's channel, Corey's channel. And sometimes it could be usually on a Thursday, but it can be, I think, was it last week we did Wednesday? So it can change. So if you want to know exactly when we're going to go live, who the guest is, what the topic's going to be, as soon as we start sending those emails out again, you'll be on the mailing list and everything. We don't spam or anything like that. We just kind of let you know when we're going to go live. So definitely check that out if you haven't already, because YouTube doesn't always notify you on stuff like that. And I also want to just thank everyone. And we had a really lively chat. We can get to everything. We got to some good questions. So I think we're pretty much on top of it.
I got some great tones in. Look at that.
Look at
Nice.
That is in probably maybe 45 minutes. You did that. I think
it's pretty loose and
I
soft.
don't know. It looks great. It looks great.
It's amazing.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible, man.
Yeah, it's always great having David on, and we appreciate. Let me get so we can see. Let me get so we can see you here. We'll get that. Hold on. Pull that off of there. All right, now we can see everyone. All right, everyone. We will see you next week. I believe it's on. Is it Josh's channel next week?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we'll see you on Josh's channel next week. And thanks again to everyone in the chat. Thanks to David, and we will see you guys later.
Thank you guys.
Yeah, it's always great having you on. You got an open invitation. So if you ever have a topic or something you want to talk about, just reach out to us.
All right. It's always fun.
All right. See everyone later.